loves. My name is Melinda, and I'm here to do a weekly reading update. Today is Friday, April 7th. It is Good Friday. I normally do these tape them on Saturday and schedule them for Sunday. And the reason I've always done that is to line up with stuff on my blog. But if you've watched a previous video, you know that I'm kind of taking a break from the blog at the moment, sort of. Also, this weekend is Easter weekend, which is a very busy weekend for us, and I'm not sure what time I will have, so I thought I'm gonna get this done now. I hope to get this video edited and up tonight. If not, it'll be up Saturday morning. Anyway, so let's talk about what I'm reading. The first book that I have, well, let me talk about what I finished first. I think I only finished one book this week, and it was When We Were Sisters by Fatimah Asghar. This is for a book club. My book club discussion is tomorrow. It's going to be a very interesting book club discussion. But this book was about three Muslim sisters. Their mother has died at some point before the story begins, but as the book begins, their father dies. So they go to live with their uncle, but the uncle's wife doesn't want them part of their family. So he puts them in an apartment, and I guess because they're the main character, the narrator, is 5 years old at this point, and her oldest sister is 9. And I think he gets random people to live with them and take care of him. It's very weird. The whole thing is weird, but it's a beautiful book. It's very heartbreaking. I just ached so much for these characters and the writing. The author is a poet, and you can tell that in her writing. The prose is just gorgeous. I talked to two of my friends who are in my book club when they were both struggling with it. So I didn't actually struggle with this book. I actually got through it pretty quickly. When I got home from vacation, I kind of shelved everything else and just read this because I thought it was going to take me longer to read than it did, and I needed to get it done by tomorrow. So I actually got it done in just a couple days. But it's definitely one that just stuck with me and kind of haunted me. And it's written, the author is non-binary, and they do a really good job of, actually, I don't know if they would say they're non-binaries to say they're gender fluid. But they do a really good job of describing how that feels, which I really appreciate, because that's something that I accept it, I respect it, but I don't always know what it's like from my point of view. So I like it when an author is able to relate that in a way that I can understand it. Like, okay, now I know what this is like. So they do a really good job with that. But this book did kind of emotionally wreck me. So I kind of went for some comfort books. And I'm not sure how comfortable these books are. I decided to read some comfort books after that. So the first one I have is Lord Edgware Dies by Agatha Christie. Oh my God. Okay, so first off, good mystery. I am I don't know, 60% through with it, something like that. I don't know who did it. I'm very interested in the mystery. It's a Poirot. I love my Poirot. I am tolerating Hastings. I know people love Hastings. I don't get it. I find him annoying. He's getting a little bit better than he was in early books. So, as we know, Agatha Christie is a writer of her time. And let me check to see when this book was originally written. I think it was, 1933. So she's a writer of her time. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because she has this little problem with what we recognize now as anti-Semitism. And of the books I've read so far, this one's the worst. I was like, oh boy. And it doesn't need to be. That's the thing. The comments, the anti-Jewish comments she makes, or at least the stereotypical Jewish comments she makes, they don't even need to be there. They aren't important to the story. They're just sort of descriptors. And I just cringe every time I read it. And I know there are people who do not read Agatha Christie for this reason, and I respect that. Personally, I look at it as sort of, this is a historical document. This is capturing a moment in time. This is what people thought. No, it's not okay. But I just, 1933, you kind of knew that bad things were happening to Jewish people at this point, and why she continued, I just don't understand it. So there's that. There's also, for some reason, at least once so far in this book, she drops the N-word in a context that makes no sense. I was reading that. I actually went back. I'm like, is that actually what she just said? And I don't know. There was no reason for that word to be in here. And I'm like, oh, Agatha, please. My hope is, as I go through Agatha Christie's books, and I'm reading them kind of, sort of, in publication order. I mean, I will jump forward if I need to. I'm not tied to the publication order, but kind of, sort of reading it in that order. I am hoping she gets better. She learns. She gets better as time goes on. Please don't tell me if she doesn't. I want to discover that on my own, I guess. I don't know, but it's too bad because this mystery is actually really good. It's just, oh man, so anti-Semitic. So there's that. So on my Kobo, much more comforting read. I am reading The Woman in Blue by Elly Griffiths, which is in the Ruth Galloway series, and I forgot to check which number it was in the Ruth Galloway series. But I love the Ruth Galloway series, and it just is like a nice hug when you know, just reading it. I love these characters. This one's really interesting. So there's a character named Cathbad. If you read the series, you know him. He's a druid, but he's very spiritually accepting of all religions. But he sees a woman standing by a gravestone in the middle of the night. Then he thinks it's a vision of some sort, and someone later suggests, oh, you saw the Virgin Mary. Turns out it was a woman who then gets strangled. There's a lot dealing with like religious iconography. They deal with like women as priests in the Church of England. So there's a lot of this going on. I'm really early on in it still, mostly because I'm not going to bed when I should. But I'm enjoying it. This is a really good one so far. I don't know. I will say this. I don't know if my enjoyment is so much because it is an exceptionally good Ruth Galloway book or because it is so much less fraught than this, which should not be a fraught book. But anyway. So that's my print book and my ebook. And then I am back into reading short stories. So I usually have a short story collection going. However, I haven't had one since January. In February, I chose to read Mink River in place of my short stories. And then in March, because I knew I was only going to be home for, the first 3/4 of the month, I read a middle grade book. I read Amari and the Great Game. So I'm back into short stories. And I got a little funny story about this book. This is Bobcat by Rebecca Lee. I'm going to ask you not to judge me until you hear this whole story. And I say that because if I were hearing this story, I would totally judge me. So my friend handed me this book and she said, I'm going to loan you this book. It was really good. Fine. That happened 9 years ago. I'm just now getting to this book. Now, before you judge me, the fact that I've had a book for 9 years that someone loaned me. 8 years ago, I did ask her, I said, I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but I know I have it. Do you want it back? And she said, no, just read it and then pass it on. So I feel okay on the loaning part. Like, it's not I loaned a book really. She gave me the book. She didn't loan it to me. I feel okay on that. I don't feel okay about the fact that I've had it for 9 years. One of my Storygraph challenges is to read the book that's been on your TBR the longest. And I don't really know when that is because I only started keeping dates a couple years ago. But because I know I've had this book for 9 years, I'm considering this the book I've had on my TBR the longest. Now, that being said, I've read the first 2 stories in it, and they're both really good. They're really interesting. The first one is about, there's a dinner party. Short stories that involve dinner parties are always so interesting. This a woman and her husband are having a dinner party, and she's really worried because her coworker and his wife are coming, and she knows that her coworker's having an affair. And there's things that go on around that. And there's also a woman who was attacked by a bobcat, which is weird, but that's in there too. It makes sense when you read it. And the second one I was really taken with the second one called The Banks of the Vistula, and it's about a young woman who is in a Midwestern college, Minnesota college, in 1987. They give the date of 1987, and she's plagiarized a paper. And when she plagiarized the paper, she didn't really think about it too much. And the professor who teaches a class for whom she plagiarizes this paper is from Poland, and he had served I guess in the Soviet army, like as a Polish soldier in the Soviet army. So there's a lot of baggage around that. But what she had plagiarized and did not realize was like pro-Soviet propaganda. So there's a lot going on in that story, and it's really interesting. I thought it was I was very captivated by it. So, you know, I think there's 8 stories in this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. Nope, there's 7. Acknowledgements is not a short story. And so far 2 have been amazing. So I think I have high hopes for this one. As for my other reading, my audiobook is The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz still, because I did not finish that last month. However, I have gone to the gym twice this week, so I've made progress on it. I am very sore, just saying that. That has nothing to do with the book. The book did not make me sore. In fact, I went to the gym for 2 weeks after not having been for a while. It made me sore. And then, of course, there is I almost said it. I almost said Dr. Strange. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Still enjoying it, still plodding along. I'll be done when I'm done. It's just kind of there. I will say, the more I get into it, the happier that I am reading it in the way that I am, which is basically a chapter a day on most days, and not pushing it, because I do think that it would be overwhelming if I had just sat down to read it. On the plane back, I finished another book. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go back because I finished another book this week, but I'll get back to that story. After I finished that book, I had like half a flight left, so I just read this. I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and so I read, 3 or 4 chapters, and I could feel it as as we landed. I could kind of feel that was a little bit overwhelming. So let me get back to the book that I finished. I totally forgot about, because this was an amazing book, and I want to press it into everybody's hands because it's a book that deserves love that I've not seen anywhere. I don't know where I was recommended this book, but it was amazing. It's called Forbidden Notebook by Alba de Céspedes, I think is her name. I'm going to put it here because even if that is her name, I'm sure I slaughtered it. It was originally published in 1952 in Italy. As far as I know, it has not been published in English until this year. The translator for this book is the same translator who translates Elena Ferrante's book, and the foreword is written by Jhumpa Lahiri. So I am a big Jhumpa Lahiri fan. So Jhumpa Lahiri is neat on this. I'm going to read it. It's the story of a woman. She is 43 years old in 1951 Rome, and she gets a notebook. For weird reasons, she's not supposed to buy the notebook. Like, it was illegal for her to buy the notebook on that particular day. I don't quite understand that. But so she gets this notebook, and she decides to start keeping a diary, which she does not feel her family can know about. Like, that's got to be her secret. And she uses this diary to work out a lot of her frustrations about her life and her family. She is married. She's married, and she has 2 children. They're always referred to as the children. Their children are 20 and 21. The son is the most awful mama's boy ever. Although she loves him. Like, he can do no wrong in her eyes. Yeah, I'm reading it going, oh my God. And honestly, this is a case where I'm not sure if that was the intent. Like, this is a 1950s Italian novel, and I'm not sure if the intent was for the writer to be kind of disgusted by this or not. But anyway, she thinks he can do no wrong, and he's totally a mama's boy. And then she has this daughter who she has a conflicted relationship with. Like, she's clear that she prefers her son over her daughter. She doesn't understand her daughter, but her daughter is really a reflection of what she wants in her core. It's really interesting. It's a feminist novel. Not one that you'd expect. I wish I had read this with a book club, because there's so many things I want to discuss with people. And it was also very interesting because it's not historical fiction, but it's set at a very historical time. It's not tied to that time, but because it was written contemporaneously, it has that feeling. And there's so many interesting little things, like the fact that she should not have been allowed to buy that notebook on that particular day. She buys it on a Sunday, and apparently you're only allowed to buy cigarettes on Sunday. I don't know what's up with that. There's all sorts of other kind of little historical details like that were just life for her that she put into this book. So I would really, really encourage you to read Forbidden Notebook by Alba de Céspedes, or this person. And let me know if you read it, because I would love to discuss it with someone. And if you're into translated fiction, it's translated. So there you go. Before I go, I did want to touch base about what I am going to be reading next, because I do think I'm going to finish both Lord Edgware Dies and The Woman in Blue, if not this weekend, very early next week. So after I finish Lord Edgware Dies, now both of these books have to do with murder. And I realized that a lot of the books that I have waiting for me have to do with murder. The next book after I finish Lord Edgware Dies, I'm going to be reading the Writing Retreat. I don't know if this has to do with murder, but it's a thriller, so it might. I don't know. I've heard good things about this. It does sound like fun thriller brain candy, which is, I'm still recovering from When We Were Sisters, so I'm going to stick with this. And then after I finish The Women in Blue, I'm going to read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, which obviously has to do with murder. I'm reading that because it's the next library book I have. If I have library books in, that's sort of the, I get the ebooks, and the order they come in is the order I read them, and that's the next one I have. So that one has to do with murder. I may or may not be staying completely in murder. We'll see what this book holds. I do hope I'm out of the anti-Semitism, because, oh boy. But we'll see. So next week, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this on Friday or do the Saturday and post on Sunday thing. We'll see. I'm not tied to any schedule now, so we'll just figure it out. If you made it this far, congratulations. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can hear me blather on about other things. And leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you're reading now. And let me know if you've read Forbidden Notebook, because I want to chat with you. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you.